Hi gang, today I'm showing you another official Friedman rig pack for Overloud's THU plugin. For those of you that don't know, THU is a full-featured amp plugin, and also you can buy expansion rig packs for them. I have a whole array, and we are one by one bringing out some very cool Friedman rig packs. This one is based on my custom Shirley's Dirty Brown Eye that Dave built for me. It's 100 watt BE on one side and 100 watt Dirty Shirley on the other side. Dirty Shirleys normally come in 40 watts, that's the main one, twin sister as well, and the mini is 20. So to get 100 watt, they're just not made, and they're incredible. They have incredible, huge headroom, big bottom end. At times they're kind of dumbbellish, at times it's just massive. And then there's a phenomenal example of the BE is what we're building here. So the tune up front heavily leans on the BE side. I couldn't resist, it's so fun, but man, there are some amazing sounds in the Dirty Shirley side as well. And for work, that's the side I use the most. For fun, I use the BE. So what I'd like to do here is crack open this track for you. We'll open up the session and I'll show you what I'm using, and I'll isolate some things, and I'll show you, how I got here, how the drum stuff came to be, and a little plugins here and there. So it might get long. Feel free to jump around. Take it in bits at a time. I tend to just spew too much information, so you might have to come back and reabsorb it if this is new to you. If not, you're probably like, yeah, I know, but that's a good sounding plugin. So that's all I'm trying to show you here. It's a great sounding plugin. The rig pack is available on the Overloud site. It's available in your DAW, so like VST, AU. It's also on iOS. It works on your phone. It works on the iPad, and it's the same sound. It's mind-blowing. You could take your phone or iPad to a session, and you could do that. So amazing, right? So let's head to my home studio. We'll crack it open, and we'll take it from there. Some very Princess Leia action going here. Here's the session. You can see these are my guitars. Actually, these are the guitars, bass, and the drums. I'll run you through all of that. And on the master bus, I have some master bus mastering, mixing things. But for now, I'm just going to leave on the loudness rising. So we have everything at a nice full level. Ideally, when you're recording, you could leave yourself headroom so you're not in the red at all times. And this is the case with this. It's at a pretty nice level, but we're just gonna make it nice and loud for you. Check this out. This is the rhythm guitars. I do these in stereo pairs. For modern rock stuff, I like hard left and hard right, not even like 60%, 70%, all the way. Some people go hard left, hard right, and one in the middle. Sounds great. You could quad, sounds huge, but sometimes you lose some of the detail. It just becomes a wall of sound. So there's a reason to do any of them. You just have to serve the song. Here is one of the rhythm guitar pairs. It's direct. And I used THU on this. This is the THU plugin. It's a fully featured amp simulation plugin. It's got models of tons of amps. This is the rig player. That's my favorite portion of this because I have rigs that are dialed into exactly what I like and of the amps that I love. So we're looking at the Friedman Handwired, which is of the Friedman Shirley's Dirty Brown Eye that I have, which is 100 watt BE and Dirty Shirley. This is the BE side. It's awesome sounding. It's, I don't know, the last 10 years, it's the rock amp. So this is going into a Marshall 412 Vintage 30 with a 57 and Royer 121. I have a little noise gate up front just for when before it starts and when it stops. For the preset, I had a little sort of a stereoizing doubler and an EQ that just, fine-tuned a little bit, but I didn't need those in this. So it's really just a nice raw rock tone. This is up the middle here. And you're still able to, you know, make adjustments if you want, if that's too much gain. I'm using the cab that I captured with this, but you know, you could also turn off the cab if you wanted, go into Super Cab and use one of the expansions, or perhaps even use my expansion for Super Cab, which is also awesome. Okay, so now we got 2 of them. So as I said, I'm panning this hard left and hard right. And then we go to the verses. And I think I'm using the same patch essentially. This one did get a little of the EQ. Just a tiny bit, because the part is different. And you see here I have the intro, the verse, and sort of the chorus. I do this very often. Instead of having one track with the entire song of guitars, I will do intro and have that, and then have another 2 tracks. If you have the processing power, it's a much more organized way to handle your tracks. That way, if you need to make minute changes, you don't have to write it into automation. You could just have those tracks set up that way. Even if they're very similar, it's going to make your life really easy. If you just want to like bump the verse level a tiny bit, like what do we have here? The intro guitars were set at 10, the verse was set at -13. So there's 2 dB difference in the guitars anyway, and rather than writing that, I can just change it on the fly. Here's the verse pair of guitars. That's what I ended up with. And so, you know, I track it, and then I'll have to go back and be like, ooh, this one note is a little off, and I'll nudge that, or like this section, in this case, I could kind of tell what happened here is I tracked, and then I probably noticed like, ooh, this one is super locked in, or they were maybe a little out of sync here, but if I just copy this little section and bring this over, then they're gonna be dead in sync. And I want that to be nice and tight. And you can see I cut out a little of the gaps here also to get a little break. Rather than hearing the guitar schmooge, probably that's happening. Yeah, even just a little bit of noise sometimes takes away the magic of the break. Here I found, when I was trying to work up what the verse riff was, just thought I'd show you this. I was trying to do like a triplet-y thing. I thought maybe that would be cool. Just showing you all the presets have built-in effects, whether it's just a little bit of tailoring to it. Some have like, it's ready to go if you wanted some effects, but I didn't put them in. But here's some EQ ahead of time to tighten up the amp. Further tighten and just gain it. What I probably noticed there is like, that's a really hard part to do, and like I'm not gonna do that. Those galloping triplets. So anyway, what I settled on was And this was back to, you know, more tight sound, so I just did that on the verse because that was a tight guitar part. That's my tight part. This is the big chorus, and then the sort of louder, bigger intros. Now the bass, I recorded that direct too. I used a bunch of other plugins that I'll show you really quick. I could have easily used THU. Bass presets, bass world. And again, it's all really good sounding. I just have my sort of favorites that I've used for a while. So I was using, what is this even? I pulled out an 1176 style compressor just to tighten everything up. I'm hitting that pretty hard. That is going into this multiband distortion, which is an insane nuts amount of distortion. A little bit of EQ. Yeah. To undo some of the insane nuts going on there. And then very nice 1073 style plugin. It's just a tiny bit of goose at 60 hertz. But, you know, all of that together adds up to a nice bottom end. This is not the same bass channel used for everything. It just, I was looking for something that would sit around the guitars, and this is what I came up with, this one. Right, back to the opening here, I have this little like screamy guitar that goes over the top. Which is probably like a Alice in Chains kind of influenced sort of thing. Let me turn the plugins off. So this, I have the built-in THU effects, and they're really good. Even the most light version of the plugin, it has very nice effects. They're sort of, you know, they look like classic sort of Boss style effects, and they function like that, where yeah, you can buy a $1,000 delay, but also a Boss delay is going to sound really good. These go a long way, and I do a lot of the presets with just these plugins, and you could transform sounds with them. If you get the more expanded versions of THU, they have more expanded effects. For instance, like, you know, they'll have a fancier hall reverb rather than the sort of general reverb. And they're a little nicer, maybe a little lusher. You could, you know, get some variety, but for meat and potatoes, these are great. So what I did here, little stereo chorus just to kind of give it some dimension, and then the reverb. That's not half bad reverb, like pretty good. So this is where we sit. I found that it was just too big. I love the part, you know, with a long intro like that, you got to do something to keep the interest. You can't just have the guitars rolling. It wasn't that hooky of a riff. There needed something in there that maybe functioned as a vocal ad lib. But I wanted to break it down, so I used this distressor style plugin just to smash it. And that's just to keep it from getting bigger or quieter. I wanted to come in and stay there at a certain level. And then I'm really just neutering it here, cutting out all the bottom end and sort of that body, and adding a lot of brightness to it. I don't need need all that body and bottom end there. I just need that scream over the top. It sits a little better. It's there, but it's not in the way. And works. And this just adds a little melody into the choruses here. And as you can see, it's the same sound. I do this all the time. If it's slightly different, I'll give it a new track. And it just has less reverb built into the THU. I just adjusted the reverb back a bit. So it's not so washy because the chorus is busier. So we get into the solo section, you know, something of this length, it's half of it's the solo section, but I wanted sort of an ostinato repeating pattern to go underneath this all. And this is what I started with. I started with this guy. I just copy and pasted it across. It's a little sloppy. It's supposed to be kind of, I think it came from like sort of an idea like Tool would do on that kind of riff. Again, I'm just chopping it up. Cutting out all the bottom. There's no bottom really left. Cutting out all the top, and it's left with this sort of like telephone sound, which I quite like. And then I have an automated filter, you could see. So I have one coming up and one coming down. So it's just getting it even more out of the way. Once the guitar comes in for the solo, I just want it out of there. Super subtle. And then you put the bass and it's even going to disappear more. But it keeps movement going. And that was the point, is to have movement. Partly because there's this spacey sort of riff stuff, not even riffs, there's spacey chords happening behind it. So we've got, I like to do this a lot too. This comes from, you know, my composer and trailer background, which is you gotta set up every section. I mean, since I was doing pop music, it's like you gotta serve the chorus. You can't just have it show up. You gotta build to it. So this I took here, I'll show you right here. I'm gonna unreverse it. I took one of the chords I had going in the vamp and I reversed it so that when it hits the chord, you have a sense of like, oh, there's a new sound coming in. It's a new section, new part. It's just not out of the blue. I also did that because the chord I'm coming in on sort of doesn't feel like the one of the changes, but I like that, so I just sort of using trickeration to make this all work. So I really like this sound too. So this is the Dirty Shirley side of the Friedman 100w. Cool and vibey. Those are all like THU light effects, really. And it's just a nice full-bodied sound. This is going through Marshall 412 with a 57 and a 58 on the greenbacks. Here's with the first delay. Just a short sort of slap back. And then the second delay. That's the echo, essentially. it spreads out nicely because you're delaying the delay. Everything's going in series. What's cool about THU is if you wanted to, look, I could just, I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so you could see. Look, if you wanted to have them be in parallel, you just drag them be in parallel and now they're separated. But that was not the point. I wanted more delay and more sauce rather than separation. So I'm gonna put that back, easy peasy. And then the really nice reverb. You know, now that I'm just isolating in on it, it worked, I think, perfectly fine there. If I wanted to go super spacey, here I'll use one of the other delays. It's like it goes into this feedback destructo thing. That's cool. We get to the solo. Oh, okay, look, I went parallel there. Let me show you. So for the solo, turning all these guys off. We're back to the BE with the saturation switch. The BE100 has a saturation switch. It's three-way. It goes on its normal or left and right. I went right, which is sort of the most edgy of them. But then I went warmer. So, you know, take a little, give a little. Throw in on the little gate. The gate's really good in this. It stays out of the way. It doesn't really chop your notes off there. Just getting a little extra depth on that chorus. Just to get into two speakers, so to speak. And now we're splitting the signal, so I could have two different delays. And I'm sure this is a very Lukather influenced thing here. What is the timing here? 221 and 685. Bunch of repeats. Oh, and then this first one's stereo. So there's a tap at 221, then another one after that at 221. So it's kind of getting it twice. It's a little ping pong happening. And then the other one is just a single. And what you could do with these two, which is nice, is if you wanted to pan them, so one is always on the left, one is always on the right, you could do that or just phase, and it's a really comprehensive mixer. I mean, you could throw effects till the cows come home on this. And then back to that reverb. I'm trying to stop myself from just making everything super wet and spacey because the effects are really nice and it's easy just to do more and more. But that wasn't the point. I was trying to keep it sort of grounded and not like insanely spacey. So the drums are up here. They're sort of in a hot mess. Again, this is not how I always do things. In fact, there's a different method for different kinds of songs. I just kind of follow the muse. In this case, I think I had the riff and I wanted to get, just pull a drum loop. So I don't know if you know this, but if you go into, say, like a Get Good Drums or Superior Drummer, they either come with, or you can buy expansion packs of MIDI packs. So like Get Good Drums, here's the kit, and then you go to Grooves, and then you can pull the, come on. Then you pull out the MIDI, and then it goes straight into your DAW, which is great and helpful if you could find the perfect drum beat, which doesn't always happen. And that's what happened to this. It was kind of a specific feel, and I couldn't find anything that I was looking for. But I did stumble on this pattern. You see, they all sort of say ANUP Groove 1 Pattern 1, and that's what this is. And this came out, I think that's a free groove on the Get Good Drums. So like here, oh, you like that? Clean. So there's a cool idea in here, but it's just like a lot of the grooves you get, they're just so much. Like, it's show-off time. Like, you just don't need that. Like, just put the groove and a fill. It makes me crazy. So, but in here, this is where I got the verse from. Boom, 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 ba, ba, boom, ba, boom, 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 ba, ba, boom, ba, boom. But I didn't want all the other nonsense. So I'm just gonna, actually, I'm not gonna delete that. I'll just send it to the cornfields. Go away. So what I ended up doing is I copied the drum kit I was using, which I was using the One Kit Wonder Architects, which is a very cool sounding drum kit. And I split up the kick, the snare, and the hats into separate tracks. And it's all just so I could find it and be organized with it, semi-organized with it. You can, adjust levels inside the plugin, but I don't like to do that anyway unless it sounds different when I extract them. So I've got kick on one track. There's a little that dun-dun-dun sort of feel for the verse, and then I pull the snare over. So that's nice. I'm sure those ghost notes were in the loop, because I wouldn't have programmed the ghost notes. I would have been like, who's got time for ghost notes? And then here's some of the hats. And that, I'm sure, I programmed in just like the straight eighths and maybe left in the occasional splash thing, and then went through and deleted a whole bunch of extra stuff, and then maybe left in or added one or two others. And then I just reprogrammed entirely the opening sort of bass. Now that I had sort of a baseline of what the verse was going to be, I just went back and said, okay, this is what I want to do. But now it's easy, because if I want to program my kicks are here, my snares are here. I probably still pulled those ghost notes and stuff. So these kits are really good sounding, but I did throw like an 1073, all these great numbers. This is the kick. Just bumped a touch at 110, just to give a little more kick body. Some of the modern metal drum kits just have the tightest kick drums. And unless you're doing like genty rock, you want the kick to bloom and take up a little more space. And here's the snare. So here I have 1176 and a 1073 going. This is without them. Subtle, that's just bringing out a little bit at the 12K or whatever their treble is set at. just to bring out the ch of the snare, a little of that cut, and then the super tiny, but it just felt like it gave it a little more impact. Like it kept it contained, but gave the punch, which is what I was looking for. So here, look, there's more cymbals. Is this chorus? So I had cymbals that I took probably partially from the groove, but I wanted that chorus to be big, so why not add more? And I just did it on top of it. To help create that halo of sort of brightness at the top. What's happening here? Oh, a little, like a dorky ride going throughout the solo section that you can't even hear. So that's useless, but whatever, it's there. So that was it. It's a pretty simple construction overall. Working, I probably had the L2 on. I don't usually use L2 on the master bus. I'll use like Fab Filter or a million other different ones. So I have this set up pretty high, like -8. So I'm essentially, the way Waves works is it pulls down the ceiling -8, but if you could think of it as you're just turning the track up 8 dB so that it's nice and loud. And that's a lot easier to work with than having to crank your monitors and then an email comes in and blows your ears out. So it's a rock track. So I pulled up SSL compressor very subtly. But this meter shows how much compression it's doing. So it's like between 1 and 2. This is the classic sort of rock setting. Sometimes people do 4. It was already pretty contained, so I didn't need heavy squashing. But, you could set up your compressor and then just flip the ratios. And sometimes it's funny, sometimes 4D, like the 4-to-1 ratio will actually sound less compressed than the 2-to-1. And vice versa. In theory, 2-to-1 should sound it, but the bus is a magical thing. Also, attack, I would jump between sort of this middle ground, and release, I'm always either auto or the fastest possible. Very subtle. It's like wearing a belt and just pulling in one notch, so it all just kind of like, I look cooler now, so my pants aren't going to fall down. This is a great 1073, and again, it's rock stuff, so look, I'm not even doing anything. I'm just kind of running through its whatever it does, its saturation-y stuff. It's significant. I have the drive on. What happens if you turn that off? Yeah, it's significant. It's definitely not something I'd use for everything, because often when I get to the end of a track, I already have the color. I don't want more color. But this is nice. I like this color. And then this is a killer plugin. Not cheap. Sometimes plugins are not cheap. Not everything can be $25, but sometimes that investment will save you. And this is one of those that's super cool. I use it on every mix somewhere. It's not always on the master bus, but I use it somewhere. Gullfoss, and I think it has like 1,000,000 or 1,000 little EQs, and it's that they've done the science to find out what humans, how they like to hear, or maybe they just measured some hit records or something, I don't know. And there's really only two controls. There's recover and tame. I look at it as additive. Recover is like puts stuff back, like gives you more bottom, gives you more top end, presence and oomph, or subs, whatever. And tame is the stuff that's a little nasty, it maybe shouldn't be there, it pushes it down. Look, and it's very little. I'm just doing 4.9, but I'm gonna take it out and we'll turn it up. I'll show you. See how it's always moving, trying to help you out and adjusting itself. So I've got a little bright and sizzly. I rarely use it more than, never go over like 15, unless there's a problem, but it's usually something very small. And then here's the tame side. You hear I totally cleaned up the bottom, over cleaned up the bottom, and then pushed out what you want to hear. So if you find your mix is like, well, it's what I want it to be, it just sounds a little dull, this can really help you. But just like everything you put on the master bus, it's a color, so some things that in theory should always be better, maybe you don't want it on there. Maybe it just, now it feels processed. You know, you have to weigh that against sometimes putting nothing sounds the most real, and if that's what you're going for in the track, that's where you gotta kind of serve that. I almost forgot to show you the keyboards because I did that in another session. That was kind of the last thing where I was like, you know what, I think this could get a little more lush. So so I thought the chorus kind of had like a ghost kind of thing. So I put these strings on. This is East-West Opus. It's a great full string patch, where if you just don't want to get into the orchestration of it and you just want to put a part down, it's fantastic. So that's lovely, but it just wasn't cutting through, you know, because you need those fast changes. And so I started trying stuff. I was really looking for something specific. And I ended up demoing this Korg Triton. I worked at Guitar Center 100 years ago, and it was when the Korg Trinity came out, and the Triton, and all the keyboards were super cool. And so I have a kind of a thing for these old guys. I haven't bought this yet. It's kind of expensive, but I was trying it out. So I did this part with the Extreme Choir patch on there, and it sounded really good. I printed it because of, you know, it's a demo, but which is the same part, which I just copied over from the strings. It's sort of the cheater way to do it. It wasn't, you know, the most elegant way, but together it sounds great. All right, that's it. I hope that was interesting or informative for at least some of you. But definitely, you know, check out THU. Check out the new hand-wired rig expansion pack for THU. That is one of the official Friedman models, if you will, captures. And it sounds really good. I made a bunch of presets for it. So if you're not a tone shaping kind of person, you just want to plug in and sound great, we got you covered. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and go over to the Overloud site and check out some plugins. Thanks for watching. See ya.